der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er noch vor sich. Dann ist es Fjortoft. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der Feld. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1.
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. I'm your host Markus Fjortoft, and as always joined by Eintracht Frankfurt's prolific number 9. We also had a number 9 score 2 goals yesterday, and he's also a former number 9 with Eintracht. We got Sébastien Haller. Dad, before I ask you where you are, just say 2 words about Sébastien Haller, because what a story that is. This is why we love football. This is why we love just
life.
Life.
We like life.
Yeah, we're getting very philosophical very early. But wow. And now, like I tweeted yesterday, he didn't play until January, and in the interview yesterday he was asked, would you think that this would be possible in January? He said no chance. And here we are, 1 game away from the Bundesliga title. Surely Dortmund win it now.
Well, let's talk more about that later. I think that we should
we want to go back to where you are.
No. About Dortmund winning, but we will start with Sébastien Haller. Absolutely. The reason you have that shirt, Marcus, is quite interesting. As you were saying, he was a part of a trio up front for Eintracht Frankfurt with Rebic, Jovic, and Haller. And Haller was always the 2 others were kind of more spectacular in terms of they were going for it. There was all or nothing. Sébastien Haller was always the kind of, he could play as a number 10, number 9, a false 9. But the reason you have that original shirt, because that is not only an original shirt, that is wore by Sébastien Haller, was that he made, I made myself a name in German football when I made an Übersteiger, meaning that I was one against the goalkeeper, and that I did a trick that I kind of did when I was a kid. And Sébastien Haller did that. I can't remember the game, but he did it in a game. And after the game, Freddie Bobic, the then head of sports for Frankfurt, showed him a YouTube of me doing that. So that was a connection. Bobic is a friend of mine, and he said that. So in the next game I was there, I went into the dressing room, said hello to Sébastien Haller. That was the first time I saw him. And you know how football is like. Then you kind of say hello, you are friends, you hug. And then I got a shirt. So that is the number 9 shirts. 9 shirts you're having there. As for yesterday, I was of course at Manchester City. I did Manchester City's trophy lifting with Erling Haaland yesterday. But of course, I had my eyes also on the Bundesliga. I followed the game. I was nervous on behalf of all neutral fans, because I think everybody who loves German football would like to have another champion, except for the Bayern fans, of course. But as it now develops, it looks like also that Bayern fans want another champion, because I think they need changes there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of talking about something will happen, and this is the 30th of May. We have talked enough on this podcast about Oliver Kahn. But having said that, they go to Augsburg. Augsburg won a man sent off. Typical for Dortmund then to throw it away. And you were tweeting as well. Remember what happened against Stuttgart, where they were with 10 men.
Well, they were 2-0 up with 10 men, I believe. And then
right.
2-2, and then 3-2, and then but yeah, like you said, yesterday first half they huffed and puffed, had some chances and never got to it. And it was funny, the way the goal came was just a Malen, a fresh, lively Malen, who crosses it. A poor, I don't know what the defenders are trying to do, but a poor clearance, poor touch, and out of nothing. And then by no means, that as a striker, that finish is incredible, because the angle he's got at it is by no means he has no means to score that, in the sense that is a tough angle for Haller to score from, and shows his clinical nature.
Yeah, it's clinical nature, also his instinct. I mean, very technical till player. What is good about Dortmund? You know, before this game, there was a game between Mainz and Stuttgart. And if Stuttgart won that game, which they end up winning 4-1, that meant that for Augsburg not safe yet. So it's a good home team. So this was a dodgy away game for Dortmund, and still coming away with 3-0 is very respectful. And before we'll go at maybe we should just go straight to Bayern, Marcus, because that was an extraordinary game too.
Yes, Bayern losing 3-1 at home, Dad, to RB Leipzig, 2 penalties, and Kunku and Szoboszlai scoring the other 2. Leimer, who is a Bayern player next season, also with the equalizer. But you alluded to it some minutes earlier, Dad, that maybe this is what Bayern need. They've won it now 10 years in a row, is it? Maybe this is what they need to really spark something new. And we touched upon Oliver Kahn, we touched upon Hasan Salihamidzic, Uli Hoeneß maybe coming back. But it's a real moment of revelation, I feel, for Bayern now, where things need to change, and it probably has had to change for the last few seasons too.
Yeah, but they feel they have changed. I remember they took Julian Nagelsmann for a long time project. They took the youngest, most talented. He doesn't like that. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge say he's a very talented coach, and they were discussing that for 1 week in Germany. Could he be talented? So they brought him. I mean, they've had that generation change now. They had Salihamidzic in the sports position. They've had Oliver Kahn taking over the CEO. They've had a new coach, a young coach. So I think at the moment, Bayern Munich will be very frustrated what we need, because you can you have a revolution on a revolution? But if we do the analysis of their season, all the so-called great names they brought in, they haven't succeeded in that. Mané, Cancelo, although there've been times they've been good, is only De Ligt, or more or less played in the starting 11 all the time, and have made the team better. And as you know, I said quite early that they want to change Oliver Kahn. They see it as an CEO. He must take the responsibility. That is the tough thing of being a CEO. So he has to take the responsibility. As for Salihamidzic, he's kind of protected, and I mean, people hear just about this in Sopranos and Godfather, but he's protected by Uli Hoeneß, but it's because he's seen as his man. But you never know what will happen now. Even Marcus, when I was there, I said, I guess in the last episode, that they're talking about Tuchel. How long can he survive? Remember when he took over, they were still in 3 race. There wasn't a 3-horse race. But this was the first weekend as well that Tuchel talked about, although I indirectly talked about Nagelsmann. He said, but if everything was good here, why did I then have to change the coach? So you can see now for Tuchel as well, more or less throwing his team under the bus after the game, because he said, I can't believe how passive we play. I can't believe that we give our initiative away. And mind you, that Leipzig are going there, securing their Champions League position. Marco Rose got fired in Dortmund, and now there is a home game away against Mainz, away from them taking the championship. It's just, we talk about Haller and how football learn us about these destinies and the good story. You have to be bad, then come back to be good, or you have to be, in his case, so out of the game, have his illness with his cancer. We love those kind of stories, but we also kind of love these stories of comebacks. We always love these stories that you always meet twice, and Marco Rose, that is the case now. He can make Dortmund champions. A Dortmund team that since last year they've sold Erling Haaland, who is now making Manchester City champion yesterday. At the same time as Salzburg, his former club, where also Marco Rose was his coach, won the Austrian League after they turned a game around against Sturm Graz in a massive decider then at the end of the season. So that's why we love football, Marcus. That's why we are so enthusiastic about that. That's why you, instead of using all your fantastic education for USA, still using a passion in football, working for P and a PFA and doing all your football stuff. That's why we love this game, and we feel privileged to be a part of that.
No, absolutely. And it's notable how Marco Rose was brought in to bring the title to Dortmund, and he does so indirectly in his second season, and wasn't given a long time at that. On the note of a revolution, yes, but then at the same time, you feel like they didn't give that revolution enough time with Nagelsmann, but also in the sense that it's a massive risk from a executive board to make such a decision of firing Nagelsmann when you are in all 3 tournaments. Consequently, you end up going out of all 3 and nor expecting him to win the treble every time, but it's certainly expectation at Bayern to then have the season develop like it does, there needs to be accountability. And we've gone on and on about Khan, but these are the decisions that you are defined by as a CEO,
Absolutely.
as a sporting
Yeah.
director. And so inevitably, with the season Bayern have now, there will need to be changes. And whether you can disagree or agree whether those are founded or not, but even still, that's football. That's the psychological makeup of accountability within football. So yes, Mainz at home for Dortmund, Cologne away for Bayern. And with this current form, and we said this, that like they will not win all their games. Cologne away is arguably, you know, as tough of a game, you'd say. We also have then the two of them. We also have a relegation fight that in which Hertha Berlin are down. A very late equalizer from Schlotterbeck for Bochum, which keeps their kind of hopes alive over the relegation playoff. Schalke, again, late on, being able to hold themselves in there. I think we all would love to see such a big club staying within it. And then you have Stuttgart under Hoeneß, and you might think, why didn't Stuttgart make this appointment earlier with Hoeneß? Because they have looked incredible since he took over, at least from a result standpoint. And then we have Hoffenheim as well, that who win 4-2 against Union Berlin, who now between Union Berlin and Freiburg are fighting for the Champions League spots. I'm rambling on here, that I'm aware, but any thoughts, reflections on the bottom, the top, in terms of how those things unfold? Anything that sprung to mind?
No, I think you explained that wisely. And I think that I texted with my friend Alex Rosen, who is at Hoffenheim, of course, relief that they're in there now. They know this has been a tough season for them. They were expected to chase for Europe, and then they found themselves in a dogfight at the bottom. So yes, Stuttgart now good, and then in the beginning of December, or 2-3 months into next season, he's probably fired, and people will say, why did you wait so long to fire Hoeneß? That's how German the carousel is there. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Now, of course, in the last round, everybody playing at the same time, which makes it, I know all about that. That's why I'm doing a lot of German things, because we were part of that. And you know that this is a fight, and there is like a, yes, championship is about your legacy. You will talk about this championship for ages, but mind you, I have to say, Bayern still got that Bayern thing of decided championship in the last rounds. I've had a big storytelling about that thing, what happened away against Hamburger Sportverein at that time, when Schalke thought they were champions for a few minutes and then they changed it around. I've also been saying in the beginning of this 20 years ago with Leverkusen, the only thing they had to do was to beat Unterhaching on the gate of Munich. They lost 2-0. So is the game home against Mainz, losing 4-1 to Stuttgart, easier than Köln away? Yes. Am I 100%? Would I put all my mortgage, would I put all my house, all my money on Dortmund winning the league? No. Still not, because first of all, this is the same as, and we'll talk a bit about Manchester City when we end this pod, Marcus. I'm trying to secretly say where I am, but in one game, a lot of things can happen. I think that if you play in the European Cup, you have home and away, and you kind of can equalize the thing, as you saw with Real Madrid and Manchester City. But there is one game you can struggle to score, and people could say it's one of those days. You could hit the post. The keeper, Mainz keeper, will probably have the game of his life now against Dortmund away, because if they lose 4-5-0, everybody say, yeah, we thought so. And so I think I just got a feeling, but I think the feeling is based on 10-year torture of seeing Bayern Munich winning every championship. Yeah. Why do I say torture? That is nothing against Bayern. I just want other teams to win the Bundesliga, because that is more worthy, is more competitive, and I would like the Bundesliga to be competitive. But I think we'll have a podcast after the season when we'll do all the analysis. But I think that we can see that this year, as I said, Dortmund not having Erling Haaland there, still being able to fight for the championship. You see the points, the number of points, Bayern losing Lewandowski seemed to have hurt them even more. So now, Marcus, I'm afraid the twists and turns are not over yet. I'm so looking forward to. Well, I guess we are in a birthday party on Saturday when the last round will be. I think we will use our phone to kind of secretly look at that. But I think there will be some twists and turns. The history tells us that there could be an early lead for Bayern Munich. That could happen. Thomas Müller will probably be hit in the back of his head and is 1-0 against Köln, and Dortmund is struggling. It's 0-0. So I mean that's all that makes the tip. So. But it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
No, I mean,
that we have a title race.
We can't underestimate the psychological aspect to this. And I'm sure Dortmund will have in the back of mind. You know, I saw the celebrations after the Augsburg game, celebrating the fans. It's as if they won the title. Now, I agree you should celebrate those moments because that was a game that really was a big potential stumbling block. But the psychological approach going into that game will be tough. Bayern have been there before, Dortmund less so. So yeah, it will be tough, and even for you going into that last game day in that infamous May afternoon when you guys went up against Leverkusen. No, yes, Leverkusen, right? No, who was it? Kaiserslautern. Sorry, when you guys, and they had to get Champions League spots, and you win 5-1. Like it doesn't make sense.
No, we saved our position, and there was all kind of twists and turns in that one as well. So now, so great. So we done that analysis. I would just before I'll talk about what I did this weekend. I would just say that have a look at the second league. That is our funny view. Darmstadt, very small city outside Mainz and Frankfurt, up. So there will be a rivalry next year. All the best to them. The last position will be Heidenheim and HSV. They both did what they had to do, win the home game. Now they're playing in Regensburg. That it's Heidenheim and Sandhausen, Hamburger Sportsverein. And Hamburger Sportsverein, HSV, they need help. But both are playing against bottom teams, second last and last. So we just got a feeling that Hamburger Sportsverein, as always, will end up on the relegation battle, and they will lose the relegation again. So I'll tell you about my weekend. If I turn around
I was about to ask. You have to end with this because you were at City yesterday, and you are where today?
I'm at City again. Coincidentally, I had a fantastic weekend in terms of atmosphere. I first went to Nottingham, did Nottingham Forest against Arsenal, your team Arsenal. There was a last chance they had to put a bit pressure on Manchester City, and of course Forest won. Not very surprisingly, because I had that feeling that, and to be fair, it was a kind of I know John Stones is coming here, but I'm probably not allowed to film that. So this is the home. So I went there and I saw Nottingham Forest winning, and they saved the place. And it was like the atmosphere was unbelievable, Marcus. You should go there someday and see Forest, the singing, the atmosphere, and of course now save the position in the Premier League. So that was fantastic, and I had a pleasure to interview the owner, the Greek owner of Forest. That was a great
out of
thing.
a movie, Dad. This guy.
He just came out of a movie, and he hasn't been doing any interviews. So I was first doing that. That was fun. I had Steve Cooper there. Steve Cooper, that I kind of. I love for him to have success with David Moyes, the only ones down at the bottom who's not been fired. They did well. And then on Sunday I went to City, and at City I had a dream before the game that when they're lifting this trophy, they were of course champions before that. I would give my former teammate Alfie Haaland together with Erling Haaland. And we managed to do that, and it was a great moment. And I think, Marcus, as a father and son, we can understand the feeling. Sometimes for people looking from outside, they're always thinking of the star and his advisor. But this is a father and son celebrating a father who played for Manchester City, and they're ending up. Then the first thing he did was we ran over and we did the interview. He took his medal and put it over his dad's head. He offered him a champagne, and it was just a great party. And he's very bounded to his family, Erling. He's very bound to his team, the team around him, and they are very close. They had their closest friend over. He had his two sisters, the younger sisters, were mascots. The two elder siblings, I think it's siblings, isn't it in English? Saying a sibling, they were there. Astor, as you know, and Gabriella, they were all there. They were on the podium celebrating that, and I got that feeling how fantastic this will be for a family. And I guess this is a moment in life. It's a moment in life that you have to cherish, because yes, they can win the treble, they can win the FA Cup final, they can win in Istanbul, and then it's perfect. But the day yesterday, they had that yesterday, and they celebrated, and yes, so it was a great day, absolutely, in all kind of terms.
It was special to see. It was a great interview, Dan, and I say that as objectively as I can. It was because it also touches upon something vital, that is that these players are humans with families and what have you, and he's from this little place called Bryne, and for him to win a title where his dad used to play and he used to support is special. A weekend, weekend filled with great stories, Dan.
Yeah, it was good point. That is the week. That is a good observation of the whole weekend, because I guess that's what is in the end of the season, that you see teams going down. You don't want them to go down. Leeds losing at West Ham. Everton saved themselves a great point at the end there. Last game, Leeds, that was my childhood heroes, playing Spurs at home. They will probably win that, but it may not be enough. Saying if Everton beats Bournemouth at home, and as we're speaking, Leicester has not played in Newcastle, which they are doing tonight. So I don't know how quick you will do this, but probably most people will listen to this then. So we'll end it here, Marcus, because what I'm doing today is that, quite coincidentally, there is we as Premier League right holders, Viaplay that is, we get these 10 minutes slots with players, and I have Erling Haaland, which is quite interesting. This is the second time I've been here. Do I like these 10-minute spots? I love, I like to tell a story. I like to walk with them in the forest and talk about life and everything I love. But you have to do that sometimes. And I was here for the weekend, so I'm doing this 10-minute sit down with Erling. And the day after, this is going to be the day after interview, because I have to ask him about that silk pyjama he was wearing at the party last night. So I think I'm going to start with that question. I will see how he's answering. Marcus, we've been at some great training facilities together, and you've been in your capacity at PFA, and this is one of the greatest. So it's
a nice one. It's a nice place, that venue, and for currently the best team in the world. There's no doubt about it. So I will get around to those Nottingham Forest interviews after a while, after the disappointment has gone away.
I'm sorry for that, but Arsenal, that was interesting, because when you do the interviews with Arteta there at the end, you somehow have to find the right words. And I just wanted to jump over the disappointment and come over to the analysis of the season. And I said something about there is a timing. Timing is everything when you talk about things. But I will start by congratulate you on a very good season. And that I think that got to be for Liverpool, for Arsenal, because Arsenal, remember, is fighting maybe against the best team in the world. Now they have to prove that, Manchester City, when they play the Champions League final against Inter, Italians, Martinez in there. They got some funny character in that team that could beat Manchester City on the day. But as I said yesterday, Marcus, when you win the Premier League, you're a champion. But if you win the treble, if you win the Champions League, you're a legend. So I think that is the players what I can see now coming in for a job a bit later, I guess, at Manchester City. So I put myself in the reception and see what's going on. When we have four channels, for people who understand the system, we have 4 channels. We have 10 minutes each. Bang, 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 bang. And then someone will time me and start doing this when I'm too long. So
I'm familiar.
Yeah, you know that. So the challenge is not to be stressed, that you just calm down and you have your thing. And I've timed myself. I will share the interview in 2. I will start with this on the field and his relation to Pep, and then I'll talk more about the silk pajamas and what a player like he, that you say he's a 22-year-old guy from Bryne who fulfill his dream. And on that, Marcus, I think that I have to go in.
Yes, go. Please go in. You have from Bundesliga to Premier League and what have you. It's yes, and there's certainly the connection with Haaland and Dortmund. So without further ado, Dad, get back and we will share this interview, and then we'll be ready when we're back for our next episode to see who will be crowned champion, who's going down, who's in the relegation playoff to meet more than likely Hamburg Sportsverein.
Auf Wiedersehen.